What's happening? This is Three Nails Podcast. Your host, co-host, host, whatever we are, I'm not sure. My name is Jason Hall.
I'm Adam Tomberlin.
And we are what we like to call an opportunist. And so we are taking this time to create a podcast to give you some conversation of 20 plus years in student ministry and a year and a half for you.
Yes, full time. Yeah.
Yeah, full-time year
full
and a half.
time. Full time year. Yeah.
So just to kind of give you two ends of different perspectives, and maybe we can learn something. Maybe we can share what we've learned with others, and also offer some good ideas, tips, maybe. Or if not anything, you just clicked it and made us feel better, and you watched it. So here's a topic for today. I have grown into this idea. It wasn't like I created this idea day one of student ministry. I've kind of grown into this idea of if I am obedient and I am organized and I prep with preparation and I communicate well, my execution will be well, which in return will be job well done. And so what we want to talk about is just that philosophy this morning. And it's been introduced to you early on in ministry, so it's going to be a great perspective for you to see how you feel about it, what are some good things about that you've learned from it, and maybe what's, didn't really help me at all, maybe, So obedience. I think as a believer, obedience is a big deal, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think for me, understanding that God has called me to full-time ministry and I have to be obedient to that was kind of the first step. If you don't have that down, you're not going to, the whole rest of the list doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. So when you fall in obedience, you're saying, here I am, use me. I'm willing to do whatever you ask me to do. And if he's called you into student ministry, well, let me tell you, in 2020, a student pastor must be organized.
Truth.
There is no room for unorganization in a student ministry that wants to be healthy, that wants to see growth, that wants to see productivity in a way of that you feel accomplished as a student pastor, that you're leading a group of people down the right direction. So your organization is key in that, right? Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you know in student ministry that organization is paramount?
Man, I definitely on Wednesday nights. I mean, so for us and the way we do things, if I had not organized my day, in which I've done it before, where I hadn't organized it, going into Wednesday night, man, it can be difficult. And I can put not just myself, but my team behind in accomplishing things and putting our volunteers behind if they don't have the right materials or the right information. Just because if I haven't organized myself and got myself together for that night, it's just not going to end well.
Right. Yeah. So I think. Let's do a shotgun approach. I'm going to say some key things in student ministry, and you say has to be organized or can wing it.
Okay.
All right. Let's start with Wednesday nights.
Organized.
Sermon series prep from August to December.
Organized.
Connect group leader information.
That is 100% got to be organized.
One-on-one conversations.
Ooh, man, those things can kind of run into you a little bit. I think that's both. I think you definitely organize yourself to have those, but I mean, man, I've gotten into some of those on Wednesday nights where just kind of happen out of the spur of the moment.
They do happen, and so that's the thing of flexibility.
Definitely,
I think is paramount, and I think it's key. I think we got to keep an eye on that. As organized as we are, and as structured as we are, we are dealing with a culture that's changing every second of every hour. Just about, it feels like, and so you have to have flexibility. You got to be willing to shift where you want to go to where you know you can go and be even better. Right, so you got to be willing to throw out some ideas sometimes, but on the overall arch, if you did beach camp,
organized,
mountain camp,
organized,
D-Now,
organized,
VBS,
organized,
mission trip,
organized,
Carowinds, Six Flags.
Well, that would be we organized beforehand, but it feels like you're winging it.
Yeah, tubing trips,
organized. definitely.
Okay. Is there anything in ministry that you feel like you didn't have to really be organized to pull off in your young?
I think it's the things that God just kind of drops in your lap. But at the same time, if you've organized your life, those conversations and things that just kind of get dropped in there just seem to happen easier.
Right. I'd agree with that.
So
that's good. So we talk about being obedient. We talk about organization, how key that is. Mm-hmm. Another thing about organization is when you're organized, you're the idea of a student pastor is more than just, oh, he's the student guy.
Yeah.
You know? So I think organization is key. I think when you're taken serious, your ministry is taken serious, opportunities of more than just student ministry will come your way. Oops, I don't know how that came on. Sorry about that. And so I think that you definitely have to have organization in order to be successful and feel successful, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think if you're not organized that you're going to be seen serious, you're going to be taken serious. You know, let's talk about this. Something so simple. When you come to the office, how do you dress? Like, how do you think you should dress?
I mean, how I would like to dress versus how I should dress.
Well,
two totally different things. Right. But I think to be taken seriously, you definitely, I mean, at least jeans and a not ratty shirt. I mean, you got to be looking presentable. I mean, you're here serving in a professional environment, so you have to look the part.
I think you gotta be able to look the part in order to be the part, and in order for your part to be taken serious, if they just see you in goofy Crocs and flip flops and shorts that don't have any matching of your T-shirt, I mean, you're just gonna be the youth guy.
No, I will say this: I wear Crocs often.
Yeah, I'm trying to break you of that,
but they're also tan and don't look crappy. They're not colorful and
they're not. They're okay. I'm not happy with them, but I gotta let you be you.
I mean, his shoes are brighter than mine are.
Yeah, my shoes are spotless. All right, obedience, organization, and then preparation. In preparing, I think that's one of the most important things is the preparation that you put in it. It's kind of like what you put in it is what you're going to get out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so, how have you adjusted to the idea of preparation to make ministry successful?
Well, I feel like preparation comes from organization. So if I'm organized, normally my preparation part of it is a part of that organization. So I think that's been paramount to me learning to be successful, because I feel like when I first got started, I was almost a little overwhelmed, but it's because I had never planned for everything that we would be doing. So trying to figure out how to get organized in that way was tough. And then the preparation part of it, if I didn't start preparing my day, like challenging me to get here earlier and making sure that I'm able to get all my ducks in a row and have my day planned out, if I wasn't able to do that, I definitely would not be successful or really a good teammate. So
I think preparation is key. And you said something, I wouldn't be a good teammate if you're not pulling your weight and prepared and giving your team the best. It's gonna notice. It's gonna show up. People are gonna see it, and then they're gonna size you up based upon how you deliver. Yeah, and preparation plays a large part in that. Let's get into communication. Can you under communicate and be successful? Can you over communicate and be successful? Which one of the two?
I feel like you can somewhat be successful in under communicating, depending on what it is. But in our line and what we're doing, over communication is key.
Yeah,
like I definitely think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say over communicate. I think
it is. Yeah,
if you under communicate, you're gonna have a desire of something to be great and solid, but you didn't communicate it well enough, and so how you communicate and how often you communicate will often dictate the success or mediocrity of what you're putting out there.
Well, I definitely think for us, and one thing I've noticed is if we want our volunteers to catch the vision that we've kind of casted, if we're not constantly keeping that in front of them.
Yep. Yeah, there's a thing that we do every Sunday morning with our Connect Group leaders.
And we meet and talk.
And then what's the big thing we do?
We go over what our plan is, what our initiative for Connect Groups is. Hey, we want to see every one of these students take a step to deepen their relationship with Jesus today.
Yep. And then we do something even bigger at the end.
Well, we pray.
And
have the one word?
The one word, man.
Oh, yeah.
We just over communicate. We want to constantly communicate who we are and give our leaders a chance to buy into that. And those words always seem to be arranged around our mission and vision somehow.
I agree with that. Yeah, I definitely do. I didn't even think about that, but they do. They definitely do.
And so I think always over communicate will always over deliver.
Yeah.
Some people will say, well, if you over communicate, you're going to run it into the ground. Yes. But in a social media heavily driven society, you're hitting people at all different times. You got to saturate the market with what you want them to see, I think, a lot of times, and communicate. All right, moving on. So we got obedience, organization, preparation, communication externally, but how important is communication internally? And when I say internally, that means inside your church walls, to your staff and to your pastors that you serve alongside with. How important is communication?
Man, I think it goes back to that team mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have our student next gen team, specifically, but as a staff, we're also a team. So, someone who's working with senior adults, someone who's working with Connect Groups, with worship and choir and whatever else it is. I mean, whatever your church is doing, you're all working as a team. And if you're not over communicating what you're doing, you could be placing something during somebody else's time slot or taking volunteers away from their group because other people are serving in your group as well.
Yep.
We just have to be able to make sure we're communicating across the board, because if not, I mean, I feel like go back to the same thing. You're just not a good teammate. You're not allowing your church to be as successful as you can.
Yep. All right, so we got about 2 minutes left, and so out of this whole thing, this is what I think the most important thing is that we're going to say today is when you're in your staff meeting, not your team meeting, but in your pastoral staff meeting, when the executive, music, seniors, adult, senior pastor, all the know-whos that are in your meetings that are on your staff are in the room, you got to speak up.
Yeah.
You have to be talking about something you're doing, because if you're not talking, no one's going to think you're doing, and if you're not talking, no one's going to think you're doing. So they're going to plan something over you, and then there's going to be a tough decision a senior pastor's going to have to make or an executive's going to have to make. 9 times out of 10, well, who put it on the calendar? And that's the way it's going to go.
Yep.
And so I think if you're in a staff meeting and you say nothing, that's not good.
Yeah.
You got to be communicating. You got to be talking. Talk about your
I
ministry.
agree with
Talk
that.
about what God is teaching you. Talk about what's coming up the pipeline. Communicate. To the final piece is once we've been obedient, we've organized ourselves in such a way. We spend so much time preparing. We overly communicate. We communicate. Now it's about the execution. Out of all those things, obedience, organization, preparation, communication, execution, which one's the easiest?
Probably the execution.
It is.
I mean, I would definitely say if you've done all the other things right, which is very difficult to do because it takes a lot of really just consistency and consistency and hard work. If you've done all those things right, the execution is a breeze.
Yep. And I feel like if you spend your time on your knees, you spend your time behind your desk organizing, structuring, you spend a lot of time preparing, you spend a lot of time overly communicating, the 25 minutes that you're going to get to speak or do whatever, that's your execution. Camp starts, that's your execution. Once those things start rolling, you start rolling, and it's a go. But there's going to be no speed bumps, or I should say less speed bumps, if you spent time organized, preparing, communicating. If you didn't, there's going to be a speed bump after every turn at a camp, a summer camp that you do. You're going to be just constantly putting out fires, right? And you're not a firefighter.
Agreed. Definitely.
You're not a firefighter. You're a student pastor.
Yep.
So don't put out fires. You're not a firefighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And you're not a arsonist either. So don't start the fires, right? Be obedient, be organized, spend time preparing, spend time communicating, and enjoy the execution.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
I mean, at that point, it's a job well done.
Job well done.
I mean,
job well done.
The thing you said was, again, always connecting it back to that this is what God has called us to do as like a student pastor or whatever pastor you may be over. Like God has called you to that. And I feel like that for me has been the biggest part of this is seeing that, again, obedience being the number one, because the way Jason described to me the first time was job well done, good and faithful servant. Like that's what I want God to say about me. And if I feel like I haven't done my best to prepare, communicate, and then execute, I just can I really say that at that point? So
it's tough.
Yeah.
All right. So obedience, you're surrendered to the call, how organized you are in your call, the time you spend preparing while you're in your call, how you communicate during your call, and the joys of execution will always lead to a job well done.
Definitely.
Awesome. Hey, well, this is our second podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking it out if anyone does. And it's been fun.
Yeah. Definitely.
Awesome.